Welcome to the TuMeke Ergonomics podcast. I'm Matt Jeffs. On June 1st, 2025, a new law begins in New York State. It's known as the Warehouse Worker Injury Reduction Act. It will impact New York State employers in the warehousing industry. Joining us to discuss it are two experts in the field of environmental health and safety and AI ergonomics. With over 25 years of experience in safety leadership training and work in the field, we have the president of Catamount Consulting of New York, Scott McKenna. And joining Scott is a doctor of physical therapy and a certified ergonomic specialist with Catamount as well, Alicia Turner. Scott, Alicia, thank you. We asked you here to help our friends understand this new law in New York State. Allow me some groundwork, and then we'll get into it. And first, we should discuss who's affected. The law applies to employers who employ at least 100 employees at a single warehouse distribution center or at least 1,000 employees across multiple warehouse distribution centers within New York State. They have to provide worksite assessments, exposure controls, employee training, record keeping, first aid practices, and they have to show employee involvement. So let's start with Scott. Scott, your safety experience in mining and construction offers a unique view and perspective. And what parallels do you see between those sectors and warehousing? And when it comes to this new law in New York State, how do you see those parallels? Would you mind elaborating?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks. I appreciate the introduction, and we're looking forward to spending some time with you chatting about this important conversation. And we're now just a couple days before it hits and it's rock and rolling, where we have other people that are talking about it in the region. So it's good timing for sure. Parallels. One, we spend time with multiple industries. Construction and mining is one area that we spend a lot of time with, but we spend also equal amount of time with general industry, just not as much as mining and construction. We find that the regulatory folks spend more time with mining and construction than they do with general industry as far as enforcement. So that's sometimes what pushes us there. But as far as parallels, I would say they're all the same in this conversation. When we're looking at routine tasks and things that they're doing, we look at them really more like an industrial athlete, an employee or a worker, that meaning they got to work with their minds and their bodies doing things all day long. And we've looked at stretch and flex programs and the way that you prepare yourself mentally to go to work as well as go home for all the right reasons with your family and being productive at work. We've been looking at this for a long time. Our background is spending time with athletes, so it would be fairly normal for us to make those connections. But as far as this is concerned, we would consider all the same. In my mind, and maybe Alicia can elaborate to some of that.
Well, that makes sense because ultimately the worker, the person is the central portion of all this, isn't it?
That's right.
Excellent. Right. Well, let me ask Alicia. Alicia, your background as a doctor of physical therapy and your certifications, multiple certifications, make you well suited to address this new law as well. How does that background impact your approach to ergonomics in warehouses? Can you share with us?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me on here today as well. I'm excited for this conversation. I think it's an important one, and New York's leading the way. I feel like a lot of states are going to follow suit with this new law. So I'm glad we're here for this conversation. So my foundation as a doctor of physical therapy, it gives me a clinical lens to assess the real human movement under real workplace strain. So it's not just, hey, I know these textbook postures, right? I've got the checklist in front of me, and are they lifting with their legs? Is their back rounded? Just those basic things. When I'm looking, of course, posture is one of the things that I look at, but I'm also trained to analyze tissue loading, cumulative stress, joint mechanics, and things that would contribute to both acute and chronic injuries. And so I have a lot more comprehensive ability to see the what. And then at the same time, I'm analyzing what the body's doing on the inside and outside. I'm thinking about why that's happening. Is it due to workflow inefficiencies? Is it due to the workstation setup or fatigue or, many other factors? But what that outlook provides is solution focused from the start, right? So we're looking at not only what are we seeing, but why are we seeing that? And then that's going to help drive interventions. And so in warehouses specifically, having that background as a physical therapist allows me to spot risks maybe before they even become problems. It allows me to approach places with a fresh set of eyes. And we all know how valuable that can be to come in, and look at things in a new way. And I have to brag because I was actually in a warehouse in New York State last week. And you guys know how rare this is. We were able to come up with an intervention of material they already had on site. It costs $0 to implement, and it's going to be at least a 20% reduction in risk of a motion that's done hundreds of times per shift. And so as y'all know, usually the material is not on site and it doesn't always cost $0, but this is stuff they had stacked in a corner. So, but I was able to see a different use for it. And so coming in that way, we're solution oriented from the start and going to build operational efficiency over time, which translates directly to savings for companies.
Yeah.
That's such a great story. I love those ideas. When we, especially the low cost ones, like, why don't we, if we need to get it up to a certain height, why don't we, those pallets over there that are just sitting there, why don't we stack those pallets and then take the fourth one off the top, things like that.
Yes,
That's beautiful.
exactly.
Yeah. And being proactive versus reactive is really where we're always going on this stuff. We have a number of folks inside of our organization at Catamount that specifically deal with prevention by design ideas, right? If we have our folks in the field, same with Alicia or myself, our eyes and ears want to be looking at what can we do different to make everything more productive, better quality, less risk, including risk on the body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it was great how you described basically, Alicia, how you drill down. That's what I'm hearing. And I want to now ask Scott, let's pan out a little bit. And let's talk about culture. Employee involvement is a must in this new law. You've said before that we all are coaches in the people business. That's a Scott quote I remember. How can Catamount help warehouses grow a culture where everyone is heard when they have a concern? They bring it forward without fear of reprisal.
Yeah. Well, I feel that this program, again, we're already implementing this in companies, construction and mining as well, which is not mandatory in New York. But a program like this helps with that culture and that synergy because it shows we know we got to do it. We know the importance of it. Alicia can explain it to us on the importance of it, what it's doing, reducing the risk and the fatigue factor on the different muscles and bones and joints. But it also shows to the employee that we care about them. We're working in a way where we can reduce the risk for their soft tissue injuries, increase their abilities to be able to go home with their families and throw a ball or go to the Disney World park on the weekend. That's an obligation, right, that we have. So that's, if we were talking non-related to this specific conversation in ergonomics and this new law, it would be the same answer I would give. What are you doing in the people business and the coaching business to help your people that work for you become the best versions and models of themselves so they can do the best that they can for you as well as for their family? And this is a good component for that. This is the reason why we want you to watch your nutrition, smoke a little less, stretch a little bit more, and watch the way you bend over and pick things up, right? It's a coaching process. And Alicia's involved with it as well as the rest of our team. It's prevention.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And Alicia, as Scott was speaking, you recall that before we hopped on this podcast, we were all discussing our little aches and pains. Let's just leave it at that. And how we have to address them ourselves and with real people in real time. And, this law now has an injury reduction program built into it. They're calling it IRPs. And your background in custom training and hands-on, that gets into that whole, how do I work with one person? When you do these custom trainings and these hands-on work to create tools for warehouse employees, what are you looking for? What are they looking for? How do you make that work?
Yeah, I love that component of the law. And, I've been in prevention for over a decade, but before that, I was on the other side of things. I was in rehabilitation. And so the way I've always approached it is the person in front of me is a unique individual and everything I do is going to be tailor-made for that person. That's not the case everywhere. You go to some clinics, your back hurts, here's your list of 10 exercises. Someone goes off and counts reps with you and everyone's going to get the same treatment. But that was never how I operated, right? The person in front of me has a set of beliefs. They have expectations. They have certain strengths. They have certain weaknesses. And so I'm going to build my program based on what I see in front of me. And I've brought that same mindset into prevention. Companies have cultures. Companies have mindsets. Companies have beliefs. There's safety Some are way stronger on safety than others. Some adapt to changes a lot better than others. And so I approach every single company, every entity, every person I'm dealing with. And when I'm building a program, it's going to be unique, but it's also going to be specific to the work that they do. I'm not handing people just this online module. I'm not handing them a generic worksheet, because we all know how quickly people's attention flies out the door when you do that. And of course, I want people to retain. I want the things that I present to them to stick. I want them to learn, and I want it to be applicable that day. And so, I'm building these programs from the ground up, and they're grounded in real mechanics, real world application. And my goal is to simplify the anatomy and the risk science into simple tools that anyone can understand and they can apply the same day that they hear me. And so, everything I do is informed by the hands-on observation, the interviewing, the walking with the people who do this job day in and day out. But then also it's backed by objective video-based risk analysis. And so the TuMeke software captures the movement, calculates that ergonomic risk using these industry gold standard assessments, which gives clarity and direction right away. And so that is such an amazing tool in the toolkit. So instead of me having to spend time and effort, TuMeke captures that video. And instead of just, we know the limitations of the ergonomic tools out there, right? It's one posture at one point in time. TuMeke,
Right.
for every single frame of the video, it gives me a posture and a score for Reba or for Rula. And so we're able to compound that data and aggregate it and say, we have a way better view of the true risk of this job. And so that's something that, it's going to, just was with what Scott was saying, the people first motto at Catamount and the way they approach everyone like athletes and say everyone needs a coach. What that does is it builds safety ownership at the floor level, not just compliance at the corporate level. And that's what we're after.
God, that's great. As you're describing that, Scott, you'll recognize this as well. Those old tools, and, I did the instructional videos on them. Those pen and paper tools were basically a snapshot compared to an old reel of film where, instead of just looking at a few frames and trying to guess the plot of the movie from a few frames, Alicia, if I'm understanding you right, this iterative way you can use a tool like TuMeke allows you to get the plot of the movie. Is that a good way to describe it?
That's a fantastic way to describe it. It gives you the whole plot. It gives you the credits at the end. It gives you all the information you need to truly understand it. Yes.
Yeah. We used to, in comparison, we used to almost fly with just a snapshot, which that's very limiting. And I appreciate the way you describe that. Scott, this new law, it could be costly for some. How can Catamount help companies build cost-effective but thorough tactics for ergonomic assessment and risk reduction? I think Alicia just gave us a hint, but would you expand on that?
Yeah, I think actually she gave you the complete peek behind the curtains. And if I jump on the backside of what she's saying, I don't know all the programs that you guys used before TuMeke's program. This is new to me to see it like this, but I do remember the old days of coaching wrestling and videotaping with an old camera and saying, see what's going on here? And that was effective. But when I take what Alicia gives me with her background and knowledge, as well as the TuMeke program videos that show where the reds are and where the issues are with just a little backing, I can show the staff member that I'm working with, look, this is why we're working on extensions, or this is why I want you working on your hamstrings, or this is why this is important to get blood flow moving versus the old static stretch way of doing it. So it's just enhanced my ability to speak with the athlete. And if we fast forward that to how is this going to affect the industry and costs, this could also be a way we can cut down on costs, because we can help the industry safety professional do the same thing that Alicia is doing to this old safety professional. She can coach them as well. So there's certainly ways we can cut down on costs on just that one avenue, right? Take the pictures, take the video, share with Alicia, and then she'll help get the supporting data back to you so that you can coach the rest of your teammates. And if you need more support, we're here for that.
I love that. That's where now in this brave new world, we can do things in an iterative manner,
Yes.
quickly changing. And just as Alicia described earlier, that allows you to do something. Hey, there's a stack of pallets. I'll use that example because that's one I remember that was very similar. if everybody's got to stack off of this trunk line, why don't we just start with 3 pallets high, and that way they don't have all go all the way to the floor? Well, that type of approach is a quick approach that then you can take another video and go, look at that. We dropped from an 8 down to a 4 risk. That's really it didn't cost anything. Whereas what I'm driving at here is that old way where we were doing all this elaborate calculation and everything. It lent us to go right for the expensive fix. It would be like, well, engineering, we're going to have to bring a hoist in here. We're going to have to bring in a
correct.
You know what I mean? And so Alicia just shared with us an example where it's like, no, you don't need to do that. See that stuff over there? Let's put it to a different use, and boom, you've got an A/B test, if you will. Alicia,
Yes, correct.
this law pushes worker training, which kind of excites me. And I know it excites Scott as well. And we get a chance to train them about injury and risk, which we like to do anyway. We like to be out front of things. How does your focus on people and teamwork help folks find the why and the how of safe movement?
Yes. I mean, two of my favorite words are the why and the how. And so that's something that my goal is to come in, and I do have a certain level of experience. I have a certain level of expertise, a certain level of training. But when I come in somewhere, the person I'm talking to is the expert. They're the on-the-job expert they contain all the information I need in order to make changes, right? I'm going to bring in some knowledge, but they're the ones that are going to give me those examples. And so when I come in, the assessment side, I think, is critical, but also I think the training side is just as important, right? Because doing an assessment and talking about risk without really providing solutions or education on how to reduce risk in an ongoing manner is no good. And so when I do education, I try to tell people, listen, I'm not just coming in here with a set of stretches. I'm not just coming in here slapping up a new table or making you drag pallets out of the corner that you're irritated that you're having to do. We're going to talk about why. And so show them what their spine looks like. Explain, just like Scott was saying, hey, what does extension do to your disc versus what does repeated bending do? This is why we're doing these sort of lifting things. And then also having TuMeke as an example, that visual feedback, in the clinic, what we used is a mirror. Okay. Watch yourself in the mirror. But hello, if I could watch myself in the mirror with red, orange, and green lines, that adds a whole nother layer to it. And so, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, these videos are worth 10,000 words. And so people are able to watch themselves move and say, oh, shoot, I'm actually not doing the thing that I thought I've been doing this whole time, right? So we're able to look and compare. And there's even some beta tools on TuMeke that are allowing people to do training on site, and it compares them to a before and after immediately. And so having that really improves people's buy-in. It improves them feeling seen, heard, and valued. It gives them a sense of, like you mentioned earlier, hey, the company cares. They're investing in me. And so, because all of this is an investment, right? And we want to make sure we're getting a good return. And so focusing on people, telling them why we're doing what we're doing and how to do it right, that's going to get us the best return on our investment.
God, that's really good. Let's stay with this for a little bit because I want to drill down. They're going to have to look, New York, when I say New York State warehouses and employers, we're going to have to look to hire ergonomists or train staff to assess or apply design or provide training or engage medical consultants. Is there any way like these new tools like TuMeke might be able to help with that process some way?
Absolutely. So many employers are realizing they need more than just a checklist, right? They need someone who understands both injury mechanics and operational demands. Because what I've seen so many times is a lot of times, like the safety professional gets tasked with ergonomics. Well, their focus is on operations. Their background is in environmental health and safety. And so they're going to try. I mean, it's good for them to be looking at it, but they're going to be missing so much. Or we bring in a PT off the street whose goal is to treat all the injuries, right? They don't care about operations. They don't care about the company's bottom line. They care about the money they're receiving from a continued revenue stream of injured people. And so I feel like what we bring to the table at Catamount is unique. So we're not only, I know the operational demands. I've been in it for a decade. I also know the mechanic side, and having a tool like TuMeke, that's the software that bridges the gap. Because Some companies bring experts like me in to do the entire program. Some want to keep that internal sustainability. And so, I work with both of those things. We have scalable interventions where I can provide broad overviews. I can do task-specific training. We can do train the trainer. It really, again, is company dependent. But TuMeke software allows internal teams to participate in video collection and understand the results they're getting, while I can remotely handle analysis and handle recommendations.
Right.
So there's another huge avenue of cost savings. And so it allows for that collaboration. It's going to be sustainable over time.
No doubt. That you stuck the landing there. That is brilliant. David Brody, who is with Cargill, once said on a conversation he and I had, I don't need, he's their North American ergonomist. And he says, I don't need to fly across the country to watch somebody pick up a box.
Yes.
And I think you just nailed that. It's sort of like, yeah, there's a place for on-site, no doubt, but there's an awful lot that can be done with these new tools. Am I hearing you right?
You are absolutely correct in that. Yes.
That is cool.
A lot of the medical field is similar to the safety field. That's my deal. And safety folks have a bad habit of not getting rid of themselves. And our job should be to do everything necessary to not be needed anymore.
Yep.
It doesn't mean it goes away, but that's always been my concept with Catamount. And it's worked because we're interested in training people, coaching people. They shouldn't need us for everything. And this will be no different. We want them to, it's twofold. We can't just teach proper movement in a stretch and flex and say, okay, you're all set. They need to be doing it over and over with consistency, just like I would be doing with an athlete. It's every single day, you move your hand, move your head, fold at the waist, like you're coaching them through everything from their stretching to their schoolwork to their cool down. And we have to maintain the same concept. So I'm anticipating a lot of train the trainer type stuff with this program, just like with any other programs that we're working with inside of corporate health and safety.
Well, that's why we all get along so well and we're excited about our work. When I owned my own award-winning outpatient rehab center and I evaluated people at the very beginning, that's a line I always used to say, our job, yours and mine, is to get me out of your life. Mm-hmm. That's where we start. And if you do the stuff I show you, you'll cut your prescription in half. I don't care if it says 3 times a week for 4 weeks. You can get better in half that amount of time. And that's cool with me. The door's always open. And I would see repeat people for different things. We did so good with my shoulder. My knee's bothering me. And and I know, and I can hear the glee in both of your, especially Alicia's voice, that you whistle on your way to work when you get to work with that kind of ethic, when you can be like, I'm here to, make things better, not string things along. So I hear you, Alicia. And Scott, building and using and keeping this IRP, this injury reduction program, will require effort. It's going to require record keeping, and annual reviews are well. You grew up in New York State. Are New York State employers up for it?
Yeah. We're rocking and rolling. We're doing these things. This will be a little adjustment, but I would not be surprised if a lot of the manufacturing facilities, at least the ones that we work with, are already doing something. We're just going to look at tweaking it a little bit. So the standards, like any other standards, are going to be bare minimum standards. We're going to look at making them more robust, right? That's the modified program. We want to look at making it the varsity program. So we're going to look at expanding it, making it better. They're up for it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So it's not going to be too much of a blind side. I know for years, OSHA has had the various programs that leaned in this direction. Now it's just actually codified. A state is stepping forward and saying, no, we're going to actually codify this. And so, I think this has been on the wind for a while, and now it's finally happening. Alicia, with warehouses, there may be a need to make changes to their operations. They may need to redesign workstations. They may need to adjust their work pace. They may apply administrative controls like job rotation or provide more breaks. This could impact productivity in the short term, but will it help in the long term?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, while there may be some upfront costs with these things, there are the concerns about disrupting workflow, concerns about buy-in or productivity. The thing is that these interventions, they reduce fatigue, they improve attention, and they keep people functioning at a higher level throughout the day. So you're going to reap benefits continually in the long run. And of course, there's some initial, people aren't sure, and it's going to be slower at the very beginning. But what it's going to result in is people who are experiencing less bodily fatigue throughout their entire shift. And, we see these same concerns with introducing stretching. Well, I don't want to shut things down to get people moving or do any sort of dynamic stuff. But what they don't realize is productivity actually goes up because by hour 7, Larry's low back isn't on fire. He's moving better.
Right.
So he's got double the amount of cases he's able to move as compared to what he was doing every day before. And so my goal also with companies is to make these adjustments as much as we can without disrupting the workflow, right? Integrating them into the existing operations. And that's why really gathering that data up front and getting hands-on and getting with the employees provides with that. And another benefit of TuMeke is, the interventions we're recommending, they're based on objective data. I'm not asking companies to just blindly invest in my solutions. I'm able to have numbers. I can say, hey, this is going to be the percent of risk we're reducing. This is going to be your ROI. And we're able, through TuMeke, giving me the platform to quickly come up with those things. My turnaround time is unbelievable, or I'm able to provide that. And like Scott mentioned, we've seen companies in New York State who aren't affected by this law. They're wanting to get ahead of it. They don't qualify because they have less than 100, but that's who brought me in last week. They have a company, they have 75 in a warehouse. And they said, you know what? This is the right thing to do for our employees. And so, this initial investment, it's going to pay for itself because it's going to result in fewer claims, more uptime, and a healthier workforce that performs longer and stronger.
I'd like to even throw in something here quick because I know you want to move on with some things.
No,
we can't lose thought of the fact that we've got in all states, including New York, you've got 5 generations of people working in industry right now. So you may have a 70-year-old that you really want to keep rolling and rocking, but you have a 20-year-old that's also moving in. So this is the first time I know of in history that it's been like this. So the obligation in my mind is how do we teach a 20-year-old how to do it better so that they don't have a bulging disc problem by the time they're 40? And how do we keep the 72-year-old who I really need, right? They may not be doing as much physical activity as they used to be, but they are super, super sharp. They've been there a long time. They understand multiple functions. How do we keep him or her rolling in the right direction? And all of them, we have an obligation to make sure they have the ability to go home at the end of the night and not have to lay on the floor because their back hurts or their body parts hurt. So to me, holistically, it's just, this is stuff we've been pushing all along, as I said, with all industries, because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I hear you. It's go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying, as a company, as an industry, as professionals, this is the direction we'd be going in.
I hear you saying, and I love that you bring up the multi-generational aspect. It used to be what we used to call tribal knowledge versus brain drain. It's that person who's in the upper echelon year-wise, if that person leaves, tribal knowledge leaves as well. And right. You may find yourself in a workplace that keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. So You're right. Everyone has a different value. Now, let me ask you, Scott, about carrots and sticks. Let's put it that way. The failure to comply can result in penalties from New York State Department of Labor. What's your sense of what's more driving employers as this comes? Is it more of a carrot or is it more of a stick? We're going to get penalties, or is it something that, hey, this is the right thing to do? Well, Alicia just gave us an example of one. Yeah. But what's your feel in general?
I don't know if I have a great feel yet, right? Because everybody who we work with is all in to do whatever we bring to the table, right? And that's why we're on their team and we're their coaches. If I'm bringing this to their table and it's a solution, they're going to say, tell me more. So as time goes on, we'll see if the compliance, right, the big stick pushes some people in our direction, in the direction of the work that we're doing. So I don't know if I have an answer yet.
I respect that. You're exactly right. It's not a crystal ball sort of situation. Right. As we prepare to land this plane, and I'll just open the floor to both of you here, we probably should offer some advice to employers. Do you have, either of you, feel free to answer, some advice maybe when it comes to maybe getting themselves educated? Care to riff on that a little bit, either of you?
Sure. I mean, I can jump in, and it's The more information you can find, the better. We have some information on our website around our ergonomic programs, some information specific around the rule, but you don't have to dive into something too deep. Just call us. We're a complete open book. We're happy to talk shop. We're happy to give ideas. We're happy to give our opinion, our thoughts, and you can do what you want with it. So we're wide open for any conversation that anyone wants to have on anything. It doesn't have to just be this.
Fair enough. Alicia, any maybe pearls that those who are facing this for the first time might want to consider as far as their next step or first step for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, we do have some specific things on Catamount's website specific to this act and kind of how we approach things, some sample videos where they can see for themselves. Like, what is she talking about with these, 3D skeleton videos or what are they looking at? And so we can have some examples up there and examples of assessments that we can provide. And I think there may be a lot of fear associated with this, that this is going to be some unbelievable administrative burden. It's going to be a massive cost undertaking, but just to encourage people that it's not. And really, truly, this is what the most forward-thinking companies in the industry have been doing. That's who I've been working with for the past 10 years, are the people on the cutting edge who have brought me in to talk about safety, to do injury reduction programs, to do ergonomic assessments, because they know that as their workers feel better, feel valued, the morale goes up, productivity goes up, attrition goes down, turnover goes down, and it's really amazing. And so, yes, you're being forced into it, but truly you're going to reap the benefits if you do it right. And it needs to be done correctly, not just to minimum compliance standards but don't be afraid to bring in the people who know what they're doing and have been doing this for years, because we just want to help. We just want to help people work better and work longer.
I hear you. It's what we used to call pencil whipping. It's not just checklists, as Scott said earlier. It's really, this is the time to do what's right. You may have already done what's right. And for those who maybe find themselves resistant to it, we have an old saying in the business, not all the dinosaurs heard the asteroid. So the asteroid has struck. It's time to join the living and say, this is business moving forward. Can I say that as a closer? Anything else, Scott?
That's excellent.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good closer. Feel free to reach out to us specifically. Our website is Catamount Consulting, LLC.com. As Alicia mentioned, there's stuff specifically on the products that we're using to assist you right on our website. All of our phone numbers are on us. We're very easy to get a hold of. The main office line is 518-623-2352. So feel free to call them. They can hook you up with any of us actually on this call that are more than happy to talk shop with you.
Excellent. Well said and well put. It's known as the Warehouse Worker Injury Reduction Act. It will impact companies in the New York State warehousing industry on June 1st, 2025, as Scott said, right around the corner from us now. We heard from two experts in the field of ergonomics and environmental health and safety. Scott, Alicia, thank you so much for this time to talk about this and get ahead of it and helping our friends in the field find out what they can do to get ready. I really appreciate both of you.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you, too, for tuning in to this special edition of TuMeke Ergonomics Podcast. Until next time, I'm Matt Jeffs, your global ergonomist, reminding you to use AI to work smarter, not harder. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.